Okay, so let's start with USD SGD, since we were looking at it on Lloyd's screen. Okay, let me share my screen and we'll take a look at it. Interestingly enough, we have been looking at this for quite a little while. All right, so here we go. Okay. All right, I think the I'm going to delete some lines over here. This is already a slightly outdated channel. Okay, so I think the interesting thing about the dollar sing, it's a very what do you call it? It's easy to trade at the extremes when you know when the price has been reached, and because we know that on the weekly time frame from there, for you guys, the Singapore government does regulate this pair quite aggressively, right? And over the last 2018 till now, I think over the last 4 years, okay, the previous low was at about the 130 level. So while I kind of was expecting it to go to the 130 level, it did also hit it didn't manage to hit it exactly. It did go past the 131, right? This is a long tail at the 131 level. So I think this is the price, this is the level where I think the market decided that it's not going to go down any further, and then we had that nice push to the upside. So this is on a weekly time frame. So these were the 2 points of the 2 points we were looking at. And on the daily time frame, I think what was interesting is once it broke past the 1.31, it came back and then it had that higher low and it didn't come back and retest it again. So there is a really good probability that price, it might do a little bit of retracement, but I don't think it'll go down all the way to 131. It'll just be a retracement, maybe about 132-ish, which it already kind of did with this little tiny low test candle. It tried to come back down based on price action to retest this level. And again, on a red event, this is on the daily time frame. So from a trading perspective, if you are on a shorter time frame, the H4 and H1 will be able to give you a bit of opportunity. And the price I would be a little bit aware of will be the 134 area. This 134 area is a pretty decent resistance level. So I do think price will kind of revisit this area and kind of hang there for a little while before it decides where to go. So we have a little bit of space towards the upside. The other pair I'm looking at is the Pound Aussie. Now, Pound Aussie, from a fundamental perspective, I'm just going to throw up the numbers here. Okay, I think we just look at this part over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so for a fundamental perspective, we do see that inflation levels. Hang on, the inflation levels for the pound has, it's still pretty high. It's about the 10.7, despite interest rates being at 3.5. So what it kind of signals is, if you just compare it to, for example, the Australian dollar, 3.1% interest rates and its inflation is 7.8. So this kind of gives us a hint that as the world increases interest rates to push down inflation, something's happening in the UK that it's not as effective, right? We have the US with a very high interest rate, 4.5, yes, but at least it was kind of effective in pushing down inflation to 6.5. So comparatively, from where we came from, I think inflation in the US was all the way at, you can see if you track back historically, it was 8.5% in September, 8.5 in September, then it started to drift down 8.2% in October, and then constantly 7.7% in November, and then all the way down till where it is kind of now, 6.5%. But if we look down at how the UK inflation has been tracking or has been moving, if we go back all the way, they started off at 10.10% inflation at 1.75% interest rate. It come down a little bit, it increased interest rate to 2.25%. Its inflation was still 10.10. We come down a little bit more. Inflation was 3.5 and 10.7 was the inflation. And then, of course, we hit the earlier part of January, 3.5%, no change, but its inflation only improved by a very small 0.2. So it's increasing interest rate, but it's not making much of a dent in inflation. So this is where my bearishness in the pound is coming from. And I think if we look at it overall, you can see ever since December into January, this is that first leg that has already happened. You know, that weakness in pound is already reflected here. We had the big retracement. This is the second leg, and we're probably going into the third leg. All right. And part of that, I would feel it's also based on how China has opened up pretty much aggressively. And we expect flows to come from the economy as well as China starts to recover. So this should give a little bit of a boost into the Australian currency as well. So what I'm looking at on the pound Aussie is to see if this level can hold, all right, from a technical perspective, all right. It has found a little bit of resistance of the 1.74 area. So I want to see whether, you know, price can stay below this area, and I will be happy to trade it to the bottom. Okay, I want pretty much not this tail over here. I think this is like a extraordinary long tail. It's not quite I don't think price will retest this lows. The probability of price retesting this 159 low is going to be very, very small. I think a likelihood is either here, all right, or a slightly nearer position will be somewhere, I would say somewhere here, somewhere at this area, 1.69. Let's put it at 1.70, a nice round number. All right, so my next level will be this 1.74 to 1.7 is somewhere I'll take it. If we are trading on the shorter time frames, you know, we could take some profit off at the bottom of this 1.72 area, all right, for shorter time frames, and then we will see whether it can it will probably take a while to hit this level if it does go down. So this space over here is what I'm looking for this currency pair to fill. So this is the area, and if price can, if the bearishness does kind of stay, this is the next portion which I will look to fill. So this is if the pound, if nothing changes in terms of politics, you know, economy in the pound. So it really all depends on whether or not in the upcoming weeks, depending on how long this takes to get there, is there any changes in policies? Is there anything new the government will be attempting to be a bit more effective in their policies, be a bit more effective in controlling inflation? So that's it for me. I mean, I think from a fundamental perspective, I do like to look at weakest versus the strongest. While I do agree that Australia isn't one of the strongest economy at this point if you compare it across the board, but I think it has potential to improve based on where China is coming from. And with that note, right, let's just take a look where the CNY USD is. All right, so this is the Chinese dollar yuan. All right, it looks like it's coming down. Actually, I just only started looking at this now. It makes me a little bit worried. It looks a bit of softness in the renminbi, right? Well, I'll keep an eye on this. So a pinch of salt, I would say. If the let me do that. I got another chart here. Let me just do that comparison. Okay, we'll just take a look just to make sure that the technicals aren't too far away from where we are looking at. What I do want to see is I want to see a little bit of confluence with the renminbi and the Aussie USD. All right, so you can see over here it kind of mirrors a little bit, not 100%. It's not 100% confluence or a what you call it. I think confluence is the right word, right? But it does kind of mirror. So before we jump in aggressively into the pound Aussie, I would be a little bit cautious that it might take some time because it looks like for the short term at least, there's a little bit of softness coming out. You can see the renminbi softening a little bit. Is it a technical, is it a technical move? Is it a retracement? I'm not too sure. And you can see that Aussie dollar kind of meanders and follows along in its direction. So what I want to see is I want to see more green candles in the renminbi, and then that will give us our additional push in the Aussie currency, and that's where it will be a point of context for us to be slightly more aggressive in the short pound Aussie. So a little bit of combination of keeping an eye on several factors, especially if part of my bias for a stronger Aussie is based on China. So we have to keep an eye on China USD in that sense. All right,
I think you do have some merits over there. I don't know if you actually read the news today. What I read is that UK is about to offend China another round. So what happens is that I read that China is trying to build what they call a super embassy right smack in the middle of London, and the UK is going to deny that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they are pushing for the Secretary of State to actually deny China in building that. So that's going to piss China off big time. So that might come into play.
I'm gonna go search for that news article.
Yeah, I think you can just search for UK China Super Embassy or something along that line. Yeah. So I think that will give grounds to actually pound even softening.
I
Uh,
see.
and I think another round of adding that, I don't really want to bring that perspective, but sort of give me the impression that the UK is actually leading the charge to giving Ukraine more stuff, which is nothing wrong. But from a trading and investing point of view, might not give people that much confidence in the pound.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too keen. I'm not too sure of that, because if we just do a quick Google, they kind of said no in December. I mean, on NPR, it already rejected a couple of months back, so that might be that lag time, unless their stance changes. I guess.
Oh no. So December,
Once is it?
December it was the mayor that rejected. It wasn't the Secretary of State. So now they're actually pushing for the Secretary of State to officially deny it.
Oh, this is quite interesting actually.
Right.
All right, well, I'll have to go Google a bit more to see that one.
All right, so with that, thank you everybody for joining us. This will be the new format. They only have 1 or 2 strategy leaders coming in every Sunday. Yeah, so hopefully that will give us a deeper discussion and more time for us to actually go through what the pairs that we are trying to trick and our rationale behind. So with that, all is good. See you all back next week with other leaders.
Everyone, bye.
Bye-bye.